This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Another week, another Lions heartbreaking loss. Don't cry about it, though. We'll get you through it. It's your Fan Report.
I see what you did there. Once again, the Lions come back late, have some timely scoring to put themselves ahead, and in a situation with a lead in the last minute of the game, only to blow it and end up losing on a last minute field goal, or last second field goal, really.
Where's our Billy Madison sound drop? You blow it!
What did you do? A little bit of Tommy Boy. Or is that Black Sheep? That's Tommy Boy. I can't remember.
I get lines from those two movies mixed up all the time.
I mean, doesn't everybody?
You know, Tommy Boy is clearly a superior movie, but like...
Yeah. So, anyways, breaking this Lions game down, I mean, where do you want to even start? Do you want to start with the offense? Do you want to start with the defense? Do you want to go higher level? I mean, I'll tell you this. Coming from the head coach, last week we talked about how this team is poorly managed. You have to question the decisions of Dan Campbell. I thought this week he was much improved. Mm-hmm. He seemed to manage this game quite a bit better. Yes, he still made some mistakes here and there, but he managed the game in a way that put the game on his team to go out and win it. And he made a gutsy call at the end of the game that you can love, you can hate. Obviously, hindsight here, we love because it worked. He chose to go for two instead of tying up the game late. Which, more power to him, the team got it done. If they didn't, we'd probably be talking differently today. And that's the glorious part of hindsight. But in all reality, I do think Dan Campbell was much improved this week with his decision-making and his management of the game. And once again, I just got to say, like, this team plays hard for their coach. And they were even further short-staffed, if you want to call it. They were even further talentless this week than they are in other weeks because you had Penei Sewell miss a lot of practices this week. Did he? I can't remember. Did he even play this weekend?
I don't believe he did.
I don't think he did either.
At least I didn't notice his name called.
No, I didn't really either. You had Quintez Cephas go down in this game with an injury. You have a lot of names that are missing for this Lions team, and they still managed to fight. And yes, this Vikings team really hasn't been that great early on in the year, but you honestly probably...
played.
What?
Sewell played.
Okay. But you honestly probably expected quite a bit more out of the Vikings offense with the powerhouses that they have at the receiving core. I know they were without Dalvin Cook. They didn't miss him, obviously. Madison putting up 113 yards. Sounds about right. Granted, he did fumble. But the Lions' defense, albeit in a bend-don't-break style of defense, it worked. And they were able to keep the Vikings out of the end zone. They only scored, what, 2 touchdowns? 1 touchdown in this game?
No, they scored 2.
2.
Right? Because Madison scored 1.
Madison did not score. He scored a receiving touchdown. He was the only receiving
Madison
touchdown.
scored 1. And, that's it, actually.
That's it.
I think that was the only one. So, no, they scored 1 touchdown.
That's it.
Sorry.
Yep. So, I mean, in all reality,
I don't know why I thought
they played pretty solidly defensively. Only allowing 1 touchdown to a Vikings offense that probably should have had a lot more.
I will give one caveat. I do feel like Mike Zimmer came out with an overly conservative game plan. I mean, 25% of the targets went to Alexander Madison in the receiving game. And it was mostly just dink and dunk routes outside of that too. So like I really did feel that if they threw the ball downfield more, they could have probably done more. But for what they did, we were able to hold our own fairly well.
And I completely agree with you. I definitely think that they were overly conservative with their play calling. I mean, they ran the ball 28 times in a fairly close game. Granted, it didn't really get close until late, but they are a team that likes to set the tone with the ground game, and for good reason. They've got 2 very good running backs, but you've got a quarterback who's proven he can throw downfield in this league. You've got 2 top-tier receivers in Jefferson and Thielen who prove that they can be downfield threats as well. Yeah. And they chose to not really take advantage of that. Yes, Jefferson played well, 124 yards and 7 catches, but Thielen was 2 catches for 40 yards.
Times.
Like how can you How can you justify that if you're the Vikings? That's a guy you have to get involved in games, and they didn't. So yeah, it seems like a lot of it was on the play calling there. Looking at the offense side of the ball for the Lions, though, running game not really bad. Like they were able to run the ball very effectively with both Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift this week, which is a nice change of pace. Usually it's one or the other.
I've been liking that duo, though. I'll be honest.
I do too. I just wish we could see it a little bit more and be allowed to get a little bit more rhythm. You know, like last week when Jamal Williams was just torching, who was it, the Bears?
Yep.
Yeah, the Bears. Unlike last week where Jamal Williams was torching the Bears in the first half, he barely touched the ball in the second half. But it seemed like this week they balanced it out well. I would have I would have liked to see them be a little bit more involved in the offensive game plan, because in all reality, Jared Goff, terrible.
Oh yeah.
Like this guy, there is not a single person in this city as a fan of the Detroit Lions that should be asking the question if Jared Goff is a quarterback of the future, because the question's been answered. He's terrible. He's terrible.
The question was answered for me when we traded for him.
I understand.
I was one of the few that wasn't even giving him a chance. I'm like, he
understand.
Sucks. I don't even want to deal with it.
But looking at the Lions receiving core, they're going to go down yet another man in Quintez Cephas, who was expected to be the top guy, and it's looking like Quintez Cephas is going to be out for the year with that broken collarbone. Mm-hmm. We find out today that Frank Ragnow is going to be out for the year, having surgery on his toe.
Yep.
Receiving core wise, it's getting pretty damn thin there.
Yeah, we got nothing, man. We got it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, and now who's after that? Daryl Hodge, like
Khalif Raymond's the other name. I'll be honest with you. Regardless of whether or not, and I said this in a text to you before I even knew Quintez Cephas was done. I said this to you. Regardless of who else is or who's lined up opposite of Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is going to be our number one receiver within the next couple of weeks. This kid
looks good out there, man.
This kid has proven for the past few weeks now he's able to get open in a lot. And I called at the beginning of the year. I said that this guy's got a huge opportunity to stamp his name in this league, especially for this team, to be a big time playmaker on the outside there, and he's doing it. So he got off to a slow start, but man, has he looked pretty damn good the last few weeks. So that's, in my opinion, that's one of the few bright spots in the passing game.
Is he already better than Equinemius, his brother, former Packers receiver?
That's a good question. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Granted, he's getting a lot more opportunity than his brother did, because in all reality, he didn't really get much opportunity at all for Green Bay because it was Devontae Adams.
He's actually still there. I didn't realize this.
Yeah, he is. He's like their 4th or 5th string wide receiver.
I want to meet their parents. Very interesting names. Amon-Ra, Equinemius, and Osiris. Those are the...
I didn't know there was a third.
Yeah, there's a third.
But Amon-Ra St. Brown having a great last few weeks, and I can only expect this to continue. He looks like the one stud receiver this team's going to have this year. And in the press conference,
and maybe in future years.
Possibly, yeah. And in a morning interview with The Ticket, Dan Campbell talking about some of the injured guys in this team. He said Taylor Decker's starting to look pretty good. He thinks he'll be back to practice midweek this week, and we'll see how he feels for the weekend. And then they asked about Terrell Williams, and he said, well, he's probably a little bit of a ways off still.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the Amon-Ra St. Brown show in that grouping for a little while now. But once again, TJ Hawkinson, non-existent. I don't understand where this guy is.
He's getting doubled up, and he's not doing a great job fighting through those double teams.
But if you want to be an elite tight end in this league, being doubled up is not an excuse.
No, I know.
It's not.
That's what I'm saying. He's not doing a great job fighting through them.
He's got the size and the ability and the athleticism to fight through double teams. It's a fact. So he's got to be better. Mm-hmm. He's got to make himself a weapon for this offense. Otherwise, this team's going to struggle to put up points.
Yeah, teams know that. Opposing defenses know that he's by far our best receiving threat. So they've been, ever since week 1, they've kind of just been focusing in on him, the defensive game plan, and it's worked.
To keep him off the board, yes, it absolutely has worked. Yeah. And he needs to figure out a way to make that change, because if he wants to be a big time tight end in this league, he's got to get it done, and he hasn't been.
Oh, did you see that DeAndre Swift truck stick?
I did. I mean, I like Swift a lot. Good player, man. 100 yards total this week.
You should have seen the sports book when you did that. I've never seen so many people flex in one room at the same time.
The amount of like testosterone that probably just like exuded into the air. Gross.
I've also never seen so many people cheering for the Packers in Detroit in one room before.
There's a lot of Packers. I work with.
It wasn't because they're Packers. A lot of people had Packers minus 2.5.
Oh,
and it was the last game of the 1 o'clock slate, so it was, a lot of people were waiting on that to finish off the
spread
parlay.
in that game was only 2.5.
Yeah, it was only minus 2.5.
Wow, Vegas knew something.
Yeah,
but defensively speaking, I mean,
I think it was minus 2.5. I can go back and look.
Defensively speaking,
I took a money line.
The team looked a lot better this week, or they just looked good this week, and they definitely did look better than they looked against Justin Fields last week and David Montgomery. Granted, Madison still was a stud, but so they've got to get the run game. They've got to get the run stopping shored up. But once again, and I got to ask this question once again: how do you justify the prevent defense here? And my other question is, why hasn't it been ripped out of the playbook? And I feel like it should just be a golden rule that if it's a one-possession game and you're on defense, you don't go prevent regardless of how much time's on the clock, especially if all they need is a field goal.
Yeah. No,
all they need is yards. That's
prevent
all they
defense.
Need. You are running into and you're putting out a defense that the sole purpose is to allow them to have yards.
Yeah, prevent defense is should only be reserved for situations when they need a touchdown to win and there's very little time left on the clock, preferably if it's for a Hail Mary attempt. But
it's literally the prevent.
By no means should it be used when they only need a field goal. And I had hoped that Dan Campbell had learned that lesson a couple weeks ago against the Ravens, but I guess he didn't.
Which that right there is what's concerning to me is he didn't learn from the mistake last time. Where the team
he did learn from the going forward instead of kicking the field goal.
He did
learn from that.
He did, which that's good. He's baby steps, but that's a big one right there to not know that you can't go prevent when your defense has played well most of the game and you've been able to hold them down. Why would you ever change up your defense? And I understand, you got to get more defensive backs out there to make sure that they're bringing a heavy wide set. A lot of pass catchers out there, so you got to bring the DBs to work with it. Fair, but you know what? Even if you got 6 DBs, that covers everybody, and then a cover 1 zone up top. Or if you wanted to play zone, you could probably run a cover 3 or a cover 4, and then
you can throw a quarters defense to help.
You
put in the prevent.
You still have 5 guys rushing the passer at that point. You still can create pressure even with 6 defensive backs out there, or bare minimum 4 guys rushing the backfield there. You got to do something. Don't just allow Kirk Cousins to sit in that pocket and pick apart your secondary that's already weak. Because he's going to, especially when all they need is enough yardage to get downfield for their kicker to kick field goal. That's exactly what happened. It's inexcusable in my mind, and they need to learn. They need to throw the prevent defense out of the playbook real quick.
In a week where seemingly every kicker in the league was missing field goals, couldn't the Vikings have just missed one?
I mean, he did miss a kick. He was 4 or 5. He did miss one.
I believe
Fiber didn't miss.
This was the most missed extra points in one football weekend, or was it most missed field goals in general in one football weekend?
Well, like Mason Crosby attributed for more than half of those. So
yeah, Mason Crosby tried to single-handedly kill my parlay.
They were about to send him back to Green Bay in a body bag.
I'm surprised they tried him out still for the final game-winning field goal.
I don't disagree. However,
I would have just kept going for it at that point. I'd have been like,
when it comes to a guy that's got the tenure that Mason Crosby has, you got to lean on him still. Yeah. Like that's like arguing not trotting out Jason Hansen when he's had a bad day. Like you still got to do it.
Didn't Mason Crosby have one of those monumental collapse of a game when against the Lions a few years ago?
Yes, he did. This isn't his first bad game. It won't be his last.
But I will say this though, on the offensive side of the ball, I I do commend the aggressiveness at the end of the game. Although it would have looked really bad if we gone for 2 and missed. It looks really good when you go for 2 and make it.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. Hindsight is glorious there. You know, we made it, so it works out. And had we not gotten in there, we'd probably be speaking a different tune right now.
But I'll be honest. I was watching that game, and I was with a couple of my cousins, and as soon as they tried it out, as soon as they didn't try out the field goal kicker and they went out, I already said I like this. Whatever happens, I like it. I like the aggressiveness. And because to me, it's Dan Campbell living up to the shit he's been talking for the past few months.
You're not wrong there. Like this is him living up to the bite off the kneecaps type deal. It's biting off, he's living up to the aggressive coaching style that he has, the loud, rambunctious style. And that is him living up to that. But at the same time, it also you can argue that it does lend itself to a little bit of inexperience where it's the inexperienced coach is going to go the more aggressive route because it more often than not will cover up some lack of experience and mistakes.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if this was an actual competing team, I probably would have been upset about it.
Oh, 100% agree.
Like, you're risking the game doing this. But considering we're not going anywhere,
yeah, absolutely. Enjoy the ride. But you know what? You know who does do that type of coaching, who makes those type of coaching decisions? And
Jack Del Rio used to love to do that.
I'm talking an actual successful coach. Mike Tomlin. He's known for it. Like he used to do that all the time at random times in the game. He'd go for 2 because that was what he wanted to do in his head. Like he's known for aggressive decision making and late in games. Go for 2.
There was a team that went for 2 this week, super early on in the game for seemingly no reason. I can't remember who it was.
I don't remember either, but I do remember seeing it.
I want to say it was the Chargers. I'm not sure.
Speaking of the Chargers, that is a damn good football team.
Oh yeah. They almost gave me a heart attack this week too, but they pulled it out.
That was a hell of a game this week.
Oh yeah.
Like that may be one of the best games we'll see all year.
I mean, that Green Bay game was a hell of a game too, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
It's just because nobody wanted to win.
Right.
Game should have ended in regulation.
But let's go ahead and move on to the presser here, the post game. I'm sure you've seen it. Everybody out there seen it. Dan Campbell speaking about the way his players played and the effort they gave, and then them not coming through in the end, and the losing by a field goal in the last minute. He got a little emotional. He teared up, and you could hear it in his voice. And I have my thoughts on it, Andrew. I'm curious to hear yours, though.
So when I first saw it was again in the sports book, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. And my immediate reaction was, "Oh, come on, really? We're going to sit here crying at the podium? Like, what's going on?" But then when I got home and I actually watched the video and listened, I didn't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I mean, like, is it a little bit too much passion for an 0-5 team? Sure. But
it's also a little bit too much passion for week 5 of the regular season.
Yeah.
For the Minnesota Vikings at home or on the road, whatever it was. At
the same time, I'd rather see that than the shit I was seeing with someone like Patricia, where it almost felt like he didn't care at all.
He was robotic.
Yeah. So I can't sit here and, I mean, you can dislike both, but like, I'm going to sit here and say that I would rather see this, and I actually straight up don't mind seeing that. I mean, don't do that every week, but like, if you're so passionate about this, and you're so passionate about these players, and you're so proud of your players that it brings a tear to your eye, then that shows me you really care about the product you put on the field, and at least trying to put them in the best position to win.
So my whole thoughts on it are, and this has kind of been a recurring thing I've heard throughout the week is, how many of the most successful coaches in history of football have you seen do this? None. I mean, Dick Vermeil. That's like it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to compare Dan Campbell to Belichick just yet.
No, but are we not going to sit here and say that we don't want ultimate success out of this guy? Like, we want ultimate success out of him. And also, you also got to look at it in a sense of, he as the head coach is supposed to be the level-headed mentor that, all right, we didn't get it. but we can get it done next week. You know, he's got to be the driving force to pick the guys back up and move them along.
But it's not like he was sitting there complaining. He was just saying how damn proud he was of the guys. So initially, I thought he was crying because
he
was
like, talking about how heartbreaking it was and how tough it was to lose in a game this way.
Yeah, because he feels for his players because he said they played their hearts out.
That's fine. But he broke. Like that loss broke him.
Like if you're crying, if you're to the point of crying because you're complaining, it's different.
Let me just put it this way: he wouldn't be crying because of how proud he is if they had won that game.
Well, yeah, because the whole
lost.
The whole thing is he's saying how proud of the effort they gave and how he feels for them that it ended in a loss again. Like he knows what he basically knows what it's like to be a player and
right. And I understand that, and he's bringing that element into it. But again, it's week 5. You're 0-5, and it's on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. If this were, the NFC Conference Championship, I'd probably be crying too. Because he's done this now, he can't really he can't afford to really do it again now.
Yeah. But I think
he's got to show that he is this mentor, that he is this strong. He's got to be the strength of this team in that locker room.
But I think we do have to factor in the fact that he's a first-year head coach, so every game kind of feels elevated for him until he finally gets that first win. Like I feel like when you're a first-time NFL coach, every game probably feels like the Super Bowl until you finally get that win.
I'm going to tell you right now.
The clock
I'm going to tell you right now. That's not an excuse to break. It's not an excuse in any way. Everybody has to experience it at some point. And Bill Belichick didn't cry. Nick Saban didn't cry in his first years as a head coach. It's not an excuse because it's your first year. That's meaningless and totally irrelevant in my mind. I will say this. I will say this. It shows his passion. It shows how much he loves his players and how much he loves the locker room and how much he bleeds for those guys. And you know what? That right there is probably going to rally those guys. They're probably going to get behind him and get fired up and want to play for this guy. And that's a good thing. It's good to show passion. But you know what? It only can happen one time. Because beyond that, it's just weak. Beyond that, the story gets old. The idea gets old. Like the power behind that passion kind of gets less and less the more it happens. This was his one moment to do it. And I don't necessarily think it was the right moment to do it. I know he can't control it. I get that.
I think it was like a strategic move.
No, I understand. But he's also got to understand that there's moments to do stuff like that, and you got to have a little bit more composure. Show a little decorum here.
A little decorum.
But no, I love the passion, and it is the most passion we've seen out of a coach in a Lions locker room in a long time. And players are going to rally behind this. This is going to get players to play up and get fired up. And I'll tell you right now, this team is like, I'll sit here and tell you, I don't know where, I don't know when, I don't know how, but this team's going to win some football games this year. Watch them play. They don't have anywhere near as much talent as the team on the other side of the ball does week in, week out. But you know what? They play harder.
Now, I'm not sure if we'll see him in the victory formation at any point this year, but they'll probably squeak out a couple wins.
This team's going to win some ball games. And it's going to have a lot to do with how much these players play for, and how hard these players play for their head coach. Yeah. And you saw some of that passion in this press conference again. I don't not like it. I like to see the passion. I like to see it there, but I don't want to see it again. I don't want to see the weakness again. I know there's no crying in baseball, but I also didn't know there was no crying. I also didn't know there was crying in football. So he's got to show some toughness and some mental. You also got to question, does he have the mental toughness for this job? Because on a bad week, think about it a couple of years from now, when this team is good and they have a bad week, think about and the media in this town, think about the questions that are going to be fired at him. Questioning his decision-making, questioning his team's play, questioning his quarterback, questioning his defense.
Yeah, but it's not like he's ever shied away from those. He's been very straight up.
I understand, but does he have the mental toughness to be able to stand there and take the punches and get back up?
I think he does.
Does he? Because he cried because they lost a Week 5 football game when they're 0-4.
let's be honest, this guy was never a guy whose toughness was in question before this week. Like, if anything, he was a tough dude.
I'm talking mental toughness.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about mental
toughness. Yes, physically speaking, this dude is very tough. Mentally, he hasn't shown anything to me that he's mentally tough. Nothing. He's shown me nothing to prove that he's mentally tough.
I feel like you just take his quotes and they scream mentally tough.
I think it's.
It could be a bunch of smoke and
it could
smoke
be
and mirrors,
exactly.
but
That's my point. Like what he's said is it's smoke and mirrors. It's all it's hogwash, if you want to call it that. It's just throwing out words because they sound cool, because they sound aggressive, and he wants to be the aggressive guy, the loudest guy in the room. That doesn't mean mental toughness. Yeah. If anything, it could be a facade for a lack of mental toughness.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is I feel like fans in the city are getting extremely nitpicky extremely early with this coaching regime. Like,
I don't blame them at all. I don't. Fans have every right to nitpick and to be critical of things that we see in this town. They've earned that.
I know, but when you look at the team we're working with, you got to give the guys some breathing room. Like, I can't get up. I cannot, unless I see something like, again, trying out the prevent defense when it's a field goal game
multiple times.
Then there's that. But other than that, I feel like it's being nitpicky.
There are a lot of reasons to question whether or not this guy can make it as a head coach that we've seen through 5 weeks. A lot of reasons. We've pointed them out on the show. This is just another one that I'm not saying I didn't like it. I'm saying he just has to be careful here. Yeah. He can't show weakness. He can't show that he can't handle losing in this town, because guess what? He's got a couple years of it before they're even going to have a chance to be good.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to show that he can handle it and rally his locker room afterwards. He's not going to rally the locker room, because he cries 17 times. That's not how you rally your locker room, because that story gets old. You need somebody who's going to fire you up, not make you just as heartbroken or break your heart even more because of how much they love you and how much they care about you and how hard you played. By the 6th, 7th time that he does it, it's just whatever, coach is crying again. But you know what? The 6th or 7th time that he stands in the middle of that locker room and is yelling and screaming and firing them up after a tough loss, don't listen to that. So he's got to show and prove that he's got the mental toughness to handle that job. And it doesn't have to do really with it being the Detroit Lions job or the city of Detroit job. It's a head coaching job of an NFL football team. It takes mental toughness. It takes fortitude. And again, I didn't not like it. Like I have zero problems with him getting emotional and having so much passion that it just wells over and he can't contain himself. I'm okay with it. I like it because, again, it is going to fire his team up this time. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out and beat the Bengals this week. To be honest with you. Okay, I would a little bit.
That's a better team than Minnesota.
I understand. I would a little
Very
bit.
similar makeup. I just think they do everything better.
But it would fit the mentality there. It would fit the mantra. Coming after a heartbreaking loss, they're fired up. The coach is fired up. The team is fired up. So I like the passion the guy brings. He's just got to make sure he maintains composure and is able to turn that heartbreaking feeling and turn it around into some momentum and tenacity to get back after it this week.
Yeah, you got to use that as fuel.
So anyways,
and hopefully the players use it as fuel. Look what you did to the head coach.
No, I'll be honest with you. That's why I said it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if they came out and won this week, because I do think this time it is going to fire them up. But 7-8 times from now, it probably won't fire them up that much. They'll probably just be laughing at him at that point.
So looking forward to Cincy. Like I just said about a minute ago, in terms of a football team, they have a very similar makeup to the Minnesota Vikings.
They do.
I just don't think that they're going to come out as conservative as Minnesota did.
They're too young to come out conservative like that.
Exactly.
The team as a whole is just too young to be that conservative. They're aggressive. They're athletic. They're fun. They want to get after it. They want to make plays. And the head coach wants to be a part of that, and he's going to call an aggressive plan.
Now, the duo Jamar Chase, or trio Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, really good receiving show. I mean, not quite as scary as the duo of Jefferson and Thielen, but when you look at what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow were able to do last week against the Packers, I mean, like I said, you can't expect to go in there and see some dink and dunk routes. Like
Jamar Chase is a receiver that, and he's proven that so far in this league, that the dude is very difficult to defend.
Yeah.
And he makes a lot of plays.
And Burrow loves to throw into him. Targeted him 10 times last week.
Because he's been throwing to him for years. He may be a rookie, but he's been catching passes from Joe Burrow for a long time.
Yep.
They've got a rapport. They've got a connection. And that duo right there is underrated at worst. Like they're very good, and people don't quite realize that just yet, at least not enough.
Yeah.
And the Lions, I don't know if they have a defensive back to answer that. Because
you're not deep enough to answer all three.
Too much attention on Jamar Chase, guess what? T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd can beat you too.
Yeah. You are not deep enough to answer to cover all three. I'm sorry.
And then they've also got like a very quiet but effective backfield. It hasn't looked great, but Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon can beat you up physically. So they're a team that's a backfield that can beat you up as well. So they got to be careful and make sure that they're able to recognize plays well. And the best thing the Lions can do this week is put pressure on Joe Burrow, make him make mistakes, because he can, and he will make mistakes.
Yeah, it does look like he's going to play. He did have to go to the hospital to throw contusion on Sunday, but he looks to be okay, and they expect him to practice in full, which tells me he's probably going to play.
Yeah, he'll be playing. He wouldn't miss a chance to take on the Detroit Lions.
So what are your expectations for this game, then?
I see a messy game because both teams are mistake prone. There's no question about that.
Just look at last week.
You know what? I see a lot of what we've been seeing the last few weeks. Like a low-scoring, messy, defensive battling game because neither offense can really get a ton going. The Bengals will be able to run the ball well. They'll have to resort to a lot of field goals for some reason, and the Lions will probably find a way to turn it on late and make it close. Like I'll be honest with you, even though the Bengals are a better team than the Vikings, I think the Lions throughout the game are going to be able to have opportunities to keep it close. Yes, the Bengals will come out hot, and they'll get ahead early. But the Lions will be able to claw back in this one and make it close, and I really do think that they'll have a chance to win it late in the game. I think we're going to follow. There's going to be a theme with this Lions team this year, and that's going to be it. They're going to get behind early and then have to claw their way back and have a chance to either make it close late or take the lead. Because that's just the way this team plays. That's the nature of the beast here. And
so the spread's 3.5. So you telling me you're taking Lions plus 3.5?
No, I'm going to take the Bengals here. I'm going to let my head take over and say I'm going to take the Bengals here. I do think it's going to be probably a one-possession game by the end of it, but I'll take the Bengals with the 3.5.
I'll be honest with you. I either tease it down to 2.5 for the Bengals, or I just take money line. 3.5 is 3 points. 3.5. I don't want to give up.
You don't like the
goal.
hook. You don't like the hook.
But at the same time, I'm not comfortable to take the Lions plus 3.5. So I'd probably either tease Bengals down to 2.5 or just take the money line.
You know what? A final score that I can see being this week is 24-20.
That'd be right. So you're pretty close to the over under at 47.5.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling that this game's potentially going to be, is a 24-20 type game. Like it's not going to be a big scoring game. Jamar Chase probably going to have 100 yards. The other receivers probably going to be pretty quiet. And it's going to be a messy game. There's going to be mistakes all over the field. Probably a lot of penalties too.
I do think if the Bengals knew what was good for them, they'd come out throwing the football and spreading the football around.
And they wouldn't stop either.
Yeah, not just hyper targeting Jamar Chase. Yeah, get that. You get our secondary on its heels, and then once they are fully on their heels, then just punch it down their throats with Joe Mixon. Look at me sound like a Bengals fan. What is?
So let me ask you this. And I know as a Lions fan, we obviously want to root for our Lions, and we want to get Dan Campbell a win. Obviously.
I agree.
You want to win here. Knowing how bad the Jacksonville Jaguars are and some of the other teams in this league, have you yet begun actively rooting against the Lions in games because you want the draft pick?
No, I have not begun. I can't say I'm sitting here getting devastated when they lose because I know the season.
Well, there's nothing to be that devastated about.
But at the same time, I have not been actively rooting for the opposing team unless I have money or fantasy implications on them.
So what week will you be rooting against the Lions? Or rooting for them to lose so that we get the better draft pick? At what point in the season do you think that starts?
We're the only winless team left, aren't we?
Jaguars also.
It's probably going to be whenever the Jaguars get that first win because I assume they will get it before we do.
Let's see here.
Because then in my mind, I'll be like, okay, we have sole possession of that first pick.
Let me grab the
And then I'm like,
Jaguars
all right,
schedule.
let's not lose that.
Okay. So yes, the two winless teams in the league are the Jaguars and the Lions. There's obviously several one-win teams. The Giants, that's the only NFC team. And then AFC, you've got the Dolphins, Jets, Texans, and Colts. God, the AFC sucks.
Yeah. Looking at their schedule, I think the Jaguars can actually pick up that first win this week.
Who do they got this week?
The Dolphins.
It's definitely possible. The Dolphins look like they look like clusterfuck.
After that, they have the Seahawks, but with Geno Smith under center.
Like, if there is one team that looks more discombobulated than the Lions,
they have
it's the
the bye
Dolphins
week in
right now.
between.
Who?
Yeah. I'm talking about the Jaguars have, after the Dolphins, they have the Seahawks with Geno Smith under center. But I forgot they have a bye week in between there, so I maybe
even with Geno Smith under center, the Seahawks will be able to beat the Jaguars.
He did look
by
good
2
in those couple
touchdowns,
drives
yes.
he had in relief of Russell Wilson last week.
I think the Seahawks would still be able to handle the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Granted, Seahawks passing defense is pretty terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, they do have a couple in December. They do play Texans and Jets back to back, so I'm hoping one of those can be a win.
Let's hope so. Because I can see the Lions winning 2, maybe 3 games this year. In all honesty, I really do think so. I'm just hoping that the Jaguars and the Giants and the Jets and the Dolphins and whoever else is in that argument wins 4.
Well, if the Steelers stay looking as messy as they look, it could come against the Steelers for us.
Yeah. Granted, Ben Roethlisberger looked quite a bit better this week.
And after that, I don't know, maybe the Falcons. Maybe. That's really it, though.
Yeah, the Falcons are also another team that's pretty terrible. Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger was better this week. 15 to 25, 253, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, he played solid. Claypool played well. Deontay Johnson caught a couple of balls. Najee Harris had a big game as well.
They just lost Juju.
As if he was any factor in their offense at this point anyways. That dude is fallen from grace, man. Too much TikTok. Too much TikTok and Twitch.
AB and Juju were the best receiving duo in the league.
I do. I do very well. I had Juju on my fantasy team. I loved it. Juju Smith-Schuster is only good when he is a number 2 with a legit elite number 1 on the other side. It was the argument that I was. It was what I was worried about.
Force his way to Detroit and play opposite him, Rossi and Brown. Is what you're saying.
No. In all reality, it was what I was worried about happening to Golden Tate when Calvin retired. I wasn't sure if he could be a true number 1 in this league, and I wasn't sure if he could handle not being a number 2 with an elite number 1 on the other side. But obviously, Golden Tate proved me wrong and was able to be very effective without Calvin.
Yeah,
because he had a great year with Marvin Jones there as well. A couple of good years.
Oh. So if you don't think it happens against the Steelers, tell me where you think. Because you got the Bengals. I think that's going to be a loss. The Rams is definitely going to be a loss.
Wouldn't that be great to have the first one come against the Rams?
Right?
That would be hilarious.
The Eagles, I mean, they do look like a very bipolar football team.
That's possible.
So it's going to depend on what version of the Eagles you get. I guess same with the Steelers. It's going to depend on what version of the Steelers you get.
The Browns
will be a loss.
The Bears at home on Thanksgiving Day is the interesting one.
You can maybe sneak that one out.
You could. Vikings at home, that's another one I think you could sneak it out. You almost did this week in their turf.
Broncos in Denver is a loss. Cardinals at home is a loss.
Falcons on the road.
maybe you can pull off against the Falcons. They look messy enough.
Seahawks on the road's a loss. Packers
Nope.
at home is, unless week 17, technically speaking. I mean, you never know what the situation
Never
is
know.
going to be.
Well, week 18, but
Yeah, 18, sorry. And but then again, knowing the Lions in final week of the year games against the Packers, somebody like Matt, they're going to re-sign Matt Flynn, who's going to throw for 500 yards.
they're going to bring Tim Tebow in.
Yeah. Is he their backup quarterback?
No.
Okay.
It's
I was
Jordan
gonna say,
Love.
I thought oh, that's right. I was gonna say, I thought Tim Tebow got cut and like went to an analyst job or something.
Yeah, he was a Jaguars, like
Tight
he was
end.
trying out for tight end
Yeah.
for them. And yeah. All right, real quick, let's talk about ankles.
All right.
So we're gonna save our Pistons season preview for the next episode, but we just couldn't help but notice all the injuries that are happening, and we're 2 preseason games in. I do fully believe Cade is fine, and they're just being overly cautious with him. I mean, he's moving completely fluid in workouts, so I do think it's a completely cautionary thing. Just going to hold him out till opening day. But yeah, a lot of ankle injuries. Sadiq hurt his ankle. We already had the Frank Jackson ankle injury. We had the Cade ankle injury. Killian had an ankle injury. Now he has a concussion. What's going on?
Bad shoes, man. Bad shoes. No. I mean, it's the typical training camp preseason, like nagging. You just kind of tweak it a little bit. We're going to be extra cautious. We don't want to take any chances type of deal. Like, I don't think a majority of these are very serious. Frank Jackson's probably is a little bit more serious because I think he's been dealing with that for a while. Because wasn't he dealing with that last year too?
Well, I think did he end up playing yesterday? I didn't actually watch the preseason game yesterday because once I got home,
preseason basketball.
No, once I got home, they were being blown out by like 20. So I'm like, I might be.
Yeah, I turned it on for a minute and saw the same thing, and I went, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, he did play yesterday.
Okay, but again, it's the typical preseason. I mean, they work out a lot in preseason and training camp. Like they're on their feet a lot, they're moving a lot, and you're going to see a lot of guys tweak something here and there, and just so happens to be ankles for these guys right now. So yeah, maybe the shoes do have something to do with it. I was joking, but in all reality, that could be the truth.
It could be. Maybe they need high tops.
But I think it's just one of those training camp things where guys are going to get a little bit banged up and they tweak a few things, and the team's going to be overly cautious with it because they don't want to take chances. So I think everybody's fine.
You know, it'd be hilarious. They all came out with ankle wraps opening night. It's like everyone just has their ankles all wrapped up.
I do believe that they're going to be fine. Everybody will be ready for opening night, and that team will be rocking. I think they'll be ready.
You know what it is? It's Luka Garza crossing everybody up at practice. That's what it is.
Probably. Garza's been a monster. He is a monster. Is there a way that we can like incorporate his name, give him a nickname that has something to do with the Loch Ness Monster, like the Luka Ness Monster?
Well, isn't he already been dubbed Garzella, or did I just make that up?
I think you just made that up, but that's entirely possible. Garzella's a good one.
The Luka Ness monster.
The Luka Ness Monster.
God, it's terrible.
Yes, it is. It's terrible.
But yeah, I do want to reserve any like in-depth analysis for our season preview next week.
I am not a kinesiologist, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I just couldn't help but talk about all these ankle injuries. It's just I find it very amusing.
I don't even really think that they're considered like they're real injuries. I do think this is just a training camp woe that everybody deals with. I mean, you roll your ankle every now and then. Doesn't mean it's anything serious, but they're probably going to hold you out of meaningless games.
Yeah.
So just give you an extra day of rest. That's all.
Did you see Saku is signing with the Lakers now?
No, but that's hilarious.
I think they're signing him on a 2-way.
Not even surprised. That's probably all that team can still afford.
Watch him come out. Like LeBron gets hurt, they call Saku up, and then he like is the next LeBron in LA.
That'll never happen.
I know. But
you know what?
You'd totally be upset, wouldn't you?
I'd be pissed. I'll say this. I think he's going to have an opportunity to learn from one of the greatest players in the history of our game. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be very beneficial for him. Now, that does not mean he will be a good player in this league. But if LeBron is willing to work with him and coach him and teach him some things, I think Saku could pick up a couple of things and better his game for it. Now, I'm not saying that he is the same type of player LeBron is, but LeBron has some facets to his game that Saku can mold himself after.
Are we about to get a Bruce Brown breakout season if Kyrie doesn't play?
No. I like Bruce Brown. I like what he brings to the table. I think he is just he's a defensive specialist off the bench. Like that is Bruce Brown to a T. And that's
He can
all
get some
he'll ever
assists.
be.
He can dish out some assists.
He's a defensive specialist off the bench. He is Lindsey Hunter 2.0.
So what's their point guard solution then? Because I assume that they'd just be bringing up Bruce Brown.
They're going to take Kyrie Irving
And give him a
kidnap
shot
him,
to sleep.
probably and anesthetize him so he goes to sleep, and then just poke him.
You'll never know. We'll just act like we change our minds overnight. Like,
And then they will secretly turn the card into the NBA without him knowing. Or they'll just say, we already did it. Oh, well.
But honestly, is there a player that, like, it's the least surprising player to me?
Oh, God.
Dude.
Absolutely. Like, if there was one dude that would be like this, it'd be Kyrie.
The flat earther, of course.
Yes.
Of course, it's the flat earther.
Yes. He ought to sit down with somebody like, who was it? Karl Anthony Towns that lost like 6 family members to COVID?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, he ought to sit down with him and talk to him.
I had heard the team had sat him down and tried to educate him on everything. And
You're okay. Sitting down a flat earther and trying to educate them on a thing or two ain't exactly the easiest feat in the world. Like, come on. They got to do this a little smarter.
But, like, I honestly have a theory. I don't think Kyrie Irving likes basketball. I really don't.
I don't disagree. Like, okay.
I feel like he views it more as a job than as something he
I'll
legitimately
agree with
wants
you
to be
there.
great at.
I think he likes basketball. I think he just hasn't had fun playing the game in a couple of years. I don't think he's been in a situation where he's been able to have fun. And
I don't think he's had fun since LeBron came back to Cleveland. I think
that's what I mean.
stopped
Like
having
that's
fun.
what I think it is. I think LeBron kind of broke his psyche, and I think he just hasn't had fun playing basketball since because of it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact and the pressure he's under, and the fact that he plays with all these superstars that overshadow him when he wants to be the guy in a winning team. And I think it's causing him to not have fun playing the game. I think he loves.
I mean, he was
basketball, and I
supposed to
think
be
he
the
loves
guy
playing
in
it.
Boston. He didn't live up to that.
Tatum kind of overshadowed him, but yeah. And
Tatum was still on the come up at the time.
he was. But I also think Boston's kind of a toxic situation for a lot of players.
Yeah.
But again, I think he loves the game of basketball. I think he's just not having fun playing it right now. And his mind's so out there that he's just not motivated to really put in all the work.
So do you think if, like, we put Kyrie on the Magic, we'd see a very different person?
No. Because then you'd have Kyrie on the Cavs in the beginning where he still didn't seem all that motivated. Like, he wants to be the guy on a winning team. That's where Kyrie will have fun. Problem is, can he be that guy? But that's what Kyrie thinks of himself, and that's what Kyrie believes that's what he wants. So the fact that he's not, I feel like he's just not playing. Like, I feel like he's just not having fun.
Yeah.
That is how Kyrie has fun. He's the guy on the winning team.
But the thing is, like, I almost feel like he just wants to be given that role. Like, his response to not being given that role is to find any distraction possible.
Yep.
To make up a reason why he can't play basketball. Like,
Yep. I mean, again, I personally don't think the reason he doesn't want to get vaccinated is because he doesn't like basketball.
oh no, I didn't say that's why he
I
doesn't
think he's
want to get
a
vaccinated. I just said I don't think he likes
conspiracy
basketball.
Which is
That's all.
fair. I think he's a conspiracy theorist, and that's the reason why he doesn't want to get the shot. But
Yeah.
I still think the team should just hire somebody to kidnap him and inoculate him.
Lawsuits be damned.
Doesn't have to be a paper trail. You'll never know.
Oh,
Could just be
the,
a crazed Brooklyn
the
Nets
team
fan.
had to change of heart overnight, and not even knows that he got the Fauci ouchie. He just thinks the team had a change of heart, and they're gonna let him.
Well, it's not the team. It's the city.
No,
He's
I know,
not
but
allowed to play home games.
yeah, but he would have been allowed to play 50% of the games, even without the shot.
But how
Right.
would he be able to play home games then? How would you be able to explain that to him?
litigation. Sue the city in a fake lawsuit and have it look like you won.
That's way too much effort. Just pay off some random crazy Brooklyn Nets fan, blame it on the crazy Brooklyn Nets fan, inoculate him. He's got his card at that point. Bada boom, bada bang, he's done.
Pay off a family member. Let a family member do it.
Sure.
I'm sure KD with his wingspan could probably reach his house from the stadium and just poke him from there.
If this were a league like the NFL, I wouldn't be all that surprised to hear that a crazy fan, just ran up and put the shot in his arm and ran away. But then it comes out that it was actually orchestrated by the team. Like, that wouldn't surprise me.
Nope,
in the NFL.
Not at all.
Because the NFL is known for having.
I'd actually expect it out of FIFA.
Oh man. Anyways,
that's all I got.
At least we don't have a problem like that in our locker room.
Thank God.
Like, you got to know his team's got to hate him at this point. Like, what do you think Kevin Durant thinks?
Oh, I legitimately do think they hate him.
As they probably should.
Kevin Durant has come out and talked, but I don't remember what he said, though. I can't remember.
I know a lot of players have come out and said, like Draymond came out and said that it's not his place to tell him whether he must or must not get the shot. Like, that's not his deal. He's not a medical professional. And he's not Kyrie's or Andrew Wiggins' medical professional when Wiggins was still not vaccinated. Like, he and I respect what he said. But either way. Anyways, that's neither here nor there because we don't have the problem in our life.
Kevin Durant said he wouldn't lose sleep if Nets traded Kyrie Irving.
They hate him. Anyways, that is a call for this week, guys. We thank you for listening. Andrew, thank you for joining me. We will catch you guys next week. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast as well. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Go Lions, go Pistons, go Wings. Enjoy the start of the seasons. Have a good one.
Peace.